Hello and welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. We have an amazing show lined up for you today, including talking about why baseball just doesn't get it. And they have let me and all of their fans down once again. But before we get into that, as always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who saw live Jesus walk on water, my dad, Tim.
I did not see that. I've read the book. I know it was a miracle. It's a great book. It's the greatest story I've ever told.
That's what I've heard.
I did not see that live.
Whatever you say, but I do honestly want to talk about one thing seriously for a moment, because you are about as old as the Bible now. You've been around for a while.
Not that old.
You're getting there. You're in your 60s at this point.
I'm 60. I just barely eked across the line.
Listen, the number 60 is in your age now, and for at least the next little bit until 70 comes around. You are not getting any younger. And honestly, you've been through a lot with your body, car accidents, surgeries, all that terrible stuff. And I see you're starting to drag a little bit. And believe it or not, I actually like you and want to have you around for a lot longer. And I'm starting to get concerned.
I know, and I'm worried about you too. I read a study that since the 1980s, men's testosterone levels have been dropping off the table. And you, with your condition, if you don't keep track of your stress and watch your cortisol levels, you're in big trouble.
You're not wrong. I've had to get my cortisol levels checked on a regular basis since I was 12, but it is such a pain to do. It takes so much time to go to the doctor, then wait for the results. And honestly, it's a little embarrassing to actually go and get that checked on a regular basis. Fortunately, you and I, we can turn to our new sponsor, Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is an easy, at-home, and discreet way to check your cortisol levels, to check testosterone levels, estradiol levels, really any levels you want to get checked. You simply follow the instructions on the packet they send you, fire those samples back to them, and literally 2 to 3 days after they receive that package, you will have your results.
And best of all, if you click the link below, use the code Sports Talk with Dad, you're going to get a full 25% discount. And you know me, I'm cheap. I don't walk across the street for 5% or 10% or all the other little discounts people try to throw at you. This is 25%. So click the link below, use the code Sports Talk with Dad, and Let's Get Checked. We'll rush your own test samples over to you. We just ordered ours yesterday, and I got notified today that they're on their way.
Be here tomorrow. We'll share our results as soon as we do get them, but in all honesty, this is something I've had to get checked for a long time with my cortisol levels, and as I'm getting older and you're getting older, testosterone levels are a big thing, and stress levels are everything. It's talked about everywhere. This is a very quick and easy way to get those levels checked, as well as all your other hormones. Again, make sure you use the link below and use the code Sports Talk with Dad, because that is the only way to get 25% off. Again, link below, use the code Sports Talk with Dad.
And seriously, folks, I am 60. I want to be able to play games with the kids, have a lot of fun, live a full life, but I don't want to run to the doctor, so I can either use their specialists at Let's Get Checked, or I can go to my own doctor if I need to. Make sure you use the link below and use the code Sports Talk with Dad.
There's nothing better than having you around to be crabby even longer, which is always good.
You're going to call me crabby after what you get to give up?
I am not excited about this, okay? I'm not. So, those of you that have been longtime fans of the show, you know that I love energy drinks. I've had Bang on the show, even though they're not sponsors. I am a big fan of the product. And speaking of getting blood tests done, I have learned I now need to give up energy drinks.
God help your wife.
It's not the caffeine. It's all the other crap that's inside it that is amazing and I truly enjoy. But starting today, no more energy drinks for me. The withdrawals are going to be awful. So it's coffee.
It's going to make for some interesting shows. Your wife is going to have her patients checked one more time.
I was going to say, I don't know if I make it to the next show. I know how crabby I get when I'm tired. And now we're mixing in the fact that I won't have caffeine. I'm going to have a headache.
It's going to be ugly.
It's going to be bad. But hey, it's for the betterment of health. Luckily, again, we're getting
that.
hormone results checked too to make sure those are in order by Let's Get Checked. So again, follow the link below and get 25% off using the code Sports Talk with Dad. You had an interesting story that you shared with me about the U.S. Open. The tennis one, not the golf one. The tennis one just happened.
So Inga, I don't want to butcher her name. I think it's Inga Swiatek. Let me make sure I get this right.
That's about as butchered as it gets. Anyways.
Inga Swiatek. Swiatek.
Doesn't change the fact you probably mispronounced it.
Probably, but she is my new favorite tennis player because as a former tennis player taught for a long time, I can relate to this. You get out on the court and you just don't feel right.
Right.
You know something's going on, things are gurgling, and you got to run. And she lost the first set pretty badly in her semifinal match.
She did.
And she took a break.
She did.
And she came back and won the next two sets going away. And when she got in the interview, they started asking her about it. And she goes, well, I was about 10 pounds lighter after the first set and after my break. So it made it a little bit easier.
She had to take a dump.
I love the honesty. Anybody who can come back on and say, well, I was about 10 pounds lighter, made me giggle.
Anybody that's ever played sports has felt that.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if you've ever been in an event, you get onto the field and all of a sudden your tummy starts a rumbling and there's a problem. I mean, I've had situations playing football where I almost had to pee my pants. Like, it's the third quarter and I got to go. There's nowhere else to go. You just do it.
I told you the story about I went to work out with John Paulus and didn't take the time change. Felt the rumbling. It was not pretty.
Yeah, you have a decision to make.
Yeah, and
so luckily for her, it was in between a set, and she got to go. And hey,
thank God for breaks.
Thank God for breaks.
Congratulations to Inga for winning the U.S. Open. We aren't going to talk about the men's because I'm so furious with the state of New York.
I mean, really, the change of the guard here. 19-year-old kid wins.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she's going to be around for a long time.
No, I'm talking on the men's side.
We're not talking about the men's because of Novak. Well, now we are. Novak Djokovic had a chance to win. He's already had COVID, so he's got all the immunities in his system. And the state of New York, or the city of New York, wouldn't let him come in and defend because he never had the vaccine. How stupid can you get? Let the man come in and play the tournament. He's the healthiest man. He watches everything that goes into his body. Nothing goes in. There's not a Bang energy drink that goes into that man's body. His diet is wild.
Probably would have won more Grand Slams if he had.
Maybe. But he's already had COVID.
Yes.
If we get the mumps, guess what? You've got the immunity for life.
I'd rather not get the mumps. That's why I got the shot for it.
When you were a baby.
Correct.
Yes. I don't want it either. I never had it. I never had any childhood things, and I never had a vaccination for anything because I was allergic to.
Right, but let's be honest, though. You heavily have relied on herd immunity.
I did.
And that's why it's important for everybody to get vaccinated when they're kids from smallpox, from
measles,
mumps, because if you catch it, you're better now, but especially when you were a kid,
I would have died.
You would have died. And I've thought the same thing with COVID, with your asthma and the way it is. Crystal and I got vaccinated because we were terrified of passing COVID on to you accidentally because you are the person that would have gotten their lungs.
Well, and for those
and you would have died. It would have killed you.
I have asthma and my lungs are scarred. Severe asthma. And my lungs are scarred. And if I would have gotten it, I would have been one of those people on a
If it would have gotten into your lungs.
I would have been on a ventilator and I wouldn't have been here today. But I didn't.
You didn't. You were responsible.
I was.
No matter how much I had to drag your boomer ass back inside on several occasions.
The point is, Novak Djokovic actually had COVID.
He did.
And he came through it.
Right.
And for the city or state of New York not to let him come in and play for the Grand Slam title in the U.S. Open is ridiculous.
Yeah, listen, I got vaccinated. I won't get any of the boosters. At this point, COVID has, for the most part, passed us. It'll never go away.
No, we're going to live with it for the rest of our lives.
But it's not as severe as it was. People forget how severe COVID was when it first started. It was a bad virus.
But we're 2
But
years past
we're
that.
past it at this point. I mean, we let how many players in the NFL, NBA, MLB, and just enter on airplanes now without
or walk
anything.
across the southern border, but we're not going to get political.
Stop.
Djokovic should have been allowed to play. And that's all we're saying about the U.S. Open because my blood pressure is going up.
I'm not a big fan of the decision either. Again, we're past this at this point as a society. I don't like that he was held out.
I don't either. It's wrong. It was just a wrong decision.
But it could be a changing of the guard here with the new 19-year-old. I forget his name, Carlos. I forget his last name, but he ended up winning the tournament.
He did.
He's the youngest player to win the U.S. Open.
Did he beat Boris Becker?
He did by a couple days.
Wow. I don't know. I still have a problem with
youngest men's player.
Yeah, some youngest male. I still have, because Tracy Austin was like 16.
Right.
I still have a huge problem with the way tennis has gone. It's not as somebody came out and said, look, tennis used to be chess. It's now worse than checkers.
Correct.
And it is, because now it just hit it as hard as you can and hopefully end the point real quick.
Correct. And that's what baseball's becoming at this point too. And it's
Good segue.
Baseball's become
I like that. Well done.
Baseball has become
woke.
No. Don't use terms you don't fully understand.
I understand.
Okay.
Woke. Look, when you're making snowflake rules to change baseball from what it was, and we're going to talk about the Guardians-Tigers game, aren't we? Or are you going?
We are. We're going baseball in general. I'm going a different direction first. But again, snowflake, woke. You're too old for these terms.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Go to your rule change.
We can move on.
Go.
You feel better now? We're going to use dude and dis. We want to start using other terms that I used when I was in high school.
Yeah, and you use them wrong, but I never said anything. Anyways, go on.
Okay, moving on. So Albert Pujols, probably the greatest player of my generation.
And the classiest, we're finding out.
And the classiest player of my generation. Even as a Cubs fan watching Albert Pujols destroy the Cubs on a regular basis, I have always loved Albert Pujols. I would own an Albert Pujols Cardinals jersey.
Yes.
That's how much of a player I like him. I do not allow Cardinal gear in my house. I don't allow pictures of Cardinals in winter.
You got mad when I got a
store.
Cardinals bobblehead.
I don't allow Cardinal gear. If there's one team, if my kids can be Bears fans, I'll be fine. My kids can be Vikings fans, and I'll be pretty peeved, but I'll be okay.
Yes.
They can be Badger fans. They can be really any number of fans. I'll get over it. If my kid wears a Cardinal thing coming into my house, they don't live there anymore.
However,
Albert Pujols jersey is a different ballgame. As long as they show Pujols on the back, I'm okay with it. He is 3 away from hitting 700 home runs.
Moved into third place on the all-time list.
Fourth place.
Third place.
Fourth place.
755 is the record. It's Aaron, it's
762.
Ruth, and now it's Pujols.
Fourth place.
We don't count the cheaters. Aaron, Ruth, and now Albert Pujols, classiest guy. When he hit his 797 or 697 rather.
Yep.
I wish it was 797. That'd be a story.
Right. I love, by the way, before we move on to this,
Sure.
You're saying he passed Alex Rodriguez, right?
I did not say that. Roll back the tape. I never said that. He is now in third place.
Right. But he had to pass somebody to get there.
No, 697 moves him into third place.
Okay.
We don't talk about
So what
cheaters.
place was he in before then?
Fourth.
Behind.
I don't know who's. It might have been Tommy.
It was Alex Rodriguez.
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
We don't talk about cheaters on this show.
Moving on. I just wanted to point out to the silliness.
No.
in that.
Go on.
There's a better word for that, but I missed it.
Get back to the story because it's a great
You
story.
were telling the story.
Okay, so Albert Pujols is in Pittsburgh. He hit 697.
Yeah.
2 Pittsburgh fans, and they've got all pirate stuff on.
Right.
But they were there because it was a young couple man and wife, and the wife's father was a huge Pirate fan that happened to die on September 11th, 2021. So they went to the game to honor her father. Pujols hits 697. Her husband scrambles and gets the ball. And as a classy thing to do, they offer to give him the ball.
Right.
Pujols meets him after the game, gives him a couple balls. I think he gave him a bat or whatever,
Yep.
and just starts to walk away. And they said, wait, here's your ball. And he goes, no, I think it means more to you and your family than it does sitting in my trophy case. Classiest act of the season, maybe of the millennia so far.
He has the memories, right? He has the memory of hitting it.
He's going to have more home run balls. He's got 700 coming up.
Maybe.
He's going to get there. I believe in him.
He is a class act. That's why I've always been an Albert Pujols fan. He is coming to our neck of the woods very soon here. I'm getting tickets and taking the kids to the game. I'm assuming you'll come with us as well, because I do want to see Albert Pujols play one last time.
Here's my problem, though. He's a part-time player now.
He is.
The Cardinals are talking about, or at least I heard a story that the Cardinals are talking about not playing him on the road.
I've heard that.
I've got a big problem with that.
If they don't play him on the road, he doesn't hit 700.
Well, that's what I'm
They
thinking.
have a huge home stretch on the back end. They got 20 games left.
Mm-hmm.
You got to at least get him to 699 before you even talk about benching him, number one. And number two, like, he right now has, 18 home runs? It is
Something
18
like
home
that.
runs.
Yeah.
With the pace he's on right now, he's hitting one about every 8 games. And the guy's got 20 games left. So he's going to have to step up his average if he's even going to get there, because if he continues on the trend to hit one every 8 games, he's going to end at 699.
He needs to be the DH for every game. And if he hits it on the road, he hits it on the road. He'll still be in third place all time.
Their last 7 games are at home. He's not going to hit 700 before that stretch. It's not going to happen.
You can't say that about Pujols. He could get, as well as I do, he could pop 2 in one game fairly easily.
He could.
But don't put the added pressure on him to have to hit a home run at home in the last 7 games.
Here's the real question.
What happens?
Say he hits 699 and ends there. Does he come back another year to hit 700? Because before you answer, I'm going to say right now, I would have to. I could not walk away at 699. I don't know how Don Hudson walked away at 99 touchdowns versus 100. My brain doesn't work that way. Like, it would just, I don't have OCD. I can imagine that's what it would feel like, because I would go nuts.
In your world, number one, I don't think Don Hudson
You
even
hit 700 home runs. I hit 699. Couldn't do it. 700. I'll play till I'm 80.
Then again, you didn't have a first ballot Hall of Fame career. Maybe he'll be good with 699.
I'm sure he will be. He said he's done after this. I'm sure he is. But at the same time,
here's the thing. He's still in great shape. He is still a monster of a man.
He is.
He's only a couple years away from getting to 756 and breaking the all-time record.
No. His last 2 years, no way.
This year, he's going to get to 21 this year.
He had 6 in 2020, which was a shortened season, but still only 6. He had 12 last year.
He's back in St. Louis.
I understand that, but this is his highest home run total in the last 3 years.
I just would like to see him set the all-time record, whether he goes past the cheater at 762 or if he even gets to 756 to break what is legitimately the all-time record. I just would like to see it. Yeah, and he's just a class guy.
He is. I'm a huge Pujols fan. I've stated that now a couple of times. He's done after this year. I don't think he comes back. For me personally, it would kill me to end at 699. I'd have to get that extra home run.
I would as well. It would drive me nuts. Do you think that you're that close to being in the category with Aaron, Ruth, and then Pujols at 700?
Right.
I'd have to get there. I would.
It puts him in such a short list. And Pujols, deserves to be in that conversation. But another issue I have with baseball is that it's not being talked about. His 600th wasn't talked about. 700 is being talked about now because he plays for the Cardinals.
And why is that not talked about? And I'll tell you why. Because the cheater took away the cachet, the shine that 755 had. That was the greatest record in all of sports. And the freaking cheater, by breaking the record and cheating to do it, lost. We don't talk about it anymore.
It's not talked about anymore. No, the 90s, if it did ruin one thing, is talking about that record. I can't deny that. It's as much as I defend the steroid era of baseball, and I will, till my dying days, defend the steroid era of baseball. You are correct that the home run records were tainted during that time. I can't argue that.
Tainted, ruined, destroyed. It was easy to compare Aaron versus Ruth. It was the greatest record in all of sports. Nobody ever talked about Hudson's 99.
No.
Nobody talked about it before Favre. It was Mick Tingelhoff who had the all-time Iron Man strength. It is a great name. He was a Viking, but it was still a great name.
A great name.
Nobody talked. I mean, people talked about when Ripken broke Gehrig's record.
Yep. That was a good one.
They talked about it when Rose passed Ty Cobb.
Yep.
You know, that lost his luster because of the Rose scandal, but
it didn't.
That's another conversation. No, it didn't. I mean, it was still to get to 42-36, I think is 42-62 is Pete Rose. Anyways, to get to that point was an amazing lifetime achievement.
Yeah. And this is for Pujols. This is great.
It is. And to get into that rarefied air where only Aaron and Ruth were, there should be a daily countdown. When Aaron broke Ruth's record, they broke into live TV every at-bat.
Yep. And they did the same thing for Barry Bonds towards the end.
Doesn't matter. I mean, that was just, we're watching a cheater do something and nobody cared. Even Aaron came out and said, what exactly do I have to smile about? When the reporter asked, hey, could you record that again? Maybe smile. Why?
To be fair, I don't think that he would have smiled for anybody, no matter if they were cheating or not.
I disagree. If Albert Pujols broke that record,
sure,
I think he would have been had he been alive, obviously. Right. I think he would have been at the stadium. I think he would have shaken his hand. And I think there would have been a countdown at every single at-bat, which would have made it harder, and which, speaking of breaking records, Aaron Judge is about to break the all-time single-season record at 61.
7 behind. He's got 55 right now. Again, 20 games left. He is pacing right now one every, I think it's 2.6. 2.6 games, round up, just say to 3.
He's coming to Milwaukee this weekend, I believe.
I think, yeah, today and tomorrow they play in Milwaukee.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't get 1 or 2. Because Milwaukee's a bandbox.
It's not hard to hit him out of Milwaukee, according to players. I couldn't do it, but
we're not professional.
I did see Sosa live hit one off the top of the scoreboard, which is still
a shot.
The longest home run I've ever seen. That thing would have
clarified.
That was an 800-foot home run.
That was in Wrigley.
No.
Or I mean,
that was in
Miller.
What's now American Family.
American Family Field. Yeah.
It's what now is Miller Park. This is like 2002. But I mean, it was 800 is probably a stretch, but no.
It was
not
shot.
Lying about this. That ball would have gone minimum 600 feet.
That would have made the highway.
I couldn't believe what I just saw. Like, it really was just like a, wow, that was a hit. But anyways, back to Aaron Judge. Again, not anything that's being really talked about. 55 home runs is a big deal.
It is. And again, the cachet of those records has been taken away. It's just been tainted. If this was a normal season, I mean, remember when the other two cheaters, McGuire and Sosa, were chasing it? They broke into regular programming. They watched every one.
It was amazing. It was must-see TV. Different because it was a race, and that definitely added to it. But if it was just one or the other, it would have been the same thing. Now, McGuire, speaking of, did talk to USA Today the other way, talking about the record of Roger Maris and him coming
Right.
up. And he says, listen, I don't think he's just going to break the Yankee record. I think that he is going to, at some point, break the all-time single-season record, naming Bonds 73 home runs in a single season. McGuire thinks he's going to hit 65 this year.
I think that's a push.
That's a stretch.
I think for Judge to break the all-time record, it's going to have a lot to do with which stadiums he plays in that year. You know, if he's hitting in those home run parks.
Well, I mean, Yankee Stadium is a home run park.
Yes, but is he going to come to Miller? Is he going to be in some of the obviously it'll be Camden Yards. He's in the American League, but some of the like Wrigley Field in early spring or late summer,
right,
will help him get to the record. And I think it'll take that kind of luck along the way to get to the cheater, the unofficial 73 record. It'd be tough to get there.
Well, it depends too with the overseas games now too, because they announced the Cubs are going to be playing in London, and there's a few other teams that are talked about going to play either in Tokyo to start the regular season, which they did.
True.
Man, it was when Kerry Wood was still playing because he was the opening day starter.
2000s.
I think it was in Korea actually that they played. It was early 2000s. Those stadiums are shorter.
Correct, but I think they adjusted them somehow.
They made if I remember correctly, they made the wall taller.
Yeah, they did a Fenway to it.
To offset it. But they're still the same parks. You can't just expand the park. And Judge, with the way that ball flies off his bat, I mean, really, if you put him in Tokyo for a week or so, I mean, he's going to come away with 10 home runs just from there.
I hope he's never tainted with juice. No reason to think he is.
They test way too much for that stuff. They're the only sport with blood testing. They actually do blood testing, which no other sport does.
I just respect Aaron Judge for the just sheer power and joy he gets from playing the game.
Yeah.
And the same with Pujols.
The question is Aaron Judge going to be a Yankee after this season?
That's going to be a big part of
because that's still up in the air.
Record. I think he will be.
After this season, I think they're just going to open up the checkbook and pay him whatever he wants.
I do too. I think he's one of those players that needs to be a Yankee for life.
I agree. He is slowly becoming one of my favorite players in the game right now. I like Aaron Judge a lot, and I hope he continues on this career, barring any injuries or anything like that. And I hope he does get to 62 home runs, but it's going to be a stretch to get there. He cannot slump any of these games. He needs to stick with that average of a home run every 3 games. And even then, he has to step it up a little bit. Because what is it? You're talking 20 games. You're the math whiz, divided by 3.
He's going to light it up this weekend. I think he's going to get 2 or 3 in an American Family. That's going to put him at 58. And then it's just a push through the last games. I could just see him doing that.
So right now, if he continues 3 a game, it's 6.6 is essentially what it is. So he's right there.
It's going to be fun to watch.
He's right there. But unfortunately, with all the excitement of home runs,
baseball screwed up again.
Baseball's let me down.
Again?
Yet again. They're destroying a sport that I absolutely love and have since I was a kid. It just proves to me again that the people in power of baseball right now do not understand the sport. They don't understand what makes it exciting. They don't understand what people want to see. They don't understand any of it. I don't know what they're trying to build. I don't know what they're trying. Just bring steroids back into the game. At least the game was exciting at that point. This is a joke. This is baseball saying, listen, we don't care what we do to the game. Give us your money anyways.
Hold up, back up. We're talking about the rule changes in baseball now.
I wasn't done. I was going to get there.
I know, but let's get there. So baseball announced that they're making several changes. Rule changes. And not the ones that we proposed, which would actually make the game better. These are changes just for the sake of changes.
Yeah. Rule 1, they're bringing in the pitch clock. I have no issues with that.
I think that's a good idea.
It's fine. Whatever. They've been talking about it for a while. They've been testing it. It's a timer. Blah, blah, blah. Do your thing. Speed people up. I get it. I don't think you needed that necessarily, but I think it'll help to the point where you won't need it in the future because it'll just be a thing. They've also increased the size of the base, which I have talked about before, I completely agree with. You have to expand the size of the base if you're not going to have an in the ballpark or in the area play with the
They're still going to have to
double
have an
play.
in the area play. It's a safety thing.
Well, that's why you make the bases bigger. They go from 15 inches to 18 inches, which is a large difference
It's a large difference,
when
but
it comes to safety on the bases. I like it, especially when you see first baseman getting stepped on and
Sure.
pitchers getting stepped on when it's a bang bang play down the,
I don't have a
line.
huge, I do not
It's a
have a
smart
huge
move.
deal with it. I mean, honestly, at first base, I don't mind if they would have extended first base into the foul territory so you had the two separate ones so the runner had to run along and touch the back of that bag.
Yeah, and I think that's essentially what's going to happen. It's going to stay centered. It's going to give more area on both sides for the runner and for the player going for the out, less likely for injuries at this point. I like that a lot. So I have no issues with that at all. There are two rules that they are putting in place that prove to me you don't get it. You just don't get it. The first one being a defensive shift. They're limiting the defensive shift where at this point you have to have two people on each side of second base. No more stacking the line. Well, here's the thing, Major League Baseball. You know what I loved to see when my top hitter was coming up? Was when they stacked everybody to the right side. Why? Because all I had to do was bunt to get on base at that point. That's all I had to do.
And by the way, they've had shifts in baseball back since Ted Williams has been around.
Here's the thing. You want to stop the shift? Hit the ball the other way.
Exactly.
You are getting paid millions upon millions of dollars to play baseball and only play baseball. Learn how to hit the ball the other way.
Be a professional hitter and learn how to hit it down into that wide open field and run for daylight.
Either hit the ball a mile high in the air or take the out. If you're that much of a liability that a team defensively can shift all to one side just to stop you from hitting the ball, then maybe you should be a better player.
Exactly. It's a stupid rule and one that didn't need to be put into place. No, I have no problem with it.
I'm not against players either. Like, if that's the side you hit it to, whatever. Like I said, I couldn't do it, but I'm also not being paid millions of dollars to do just that. Like, just hit the ball the other way or bunt the ball the other way. It ends the shift. One thing I loved with Joe Madden was when Rizzo was getting that shift against him. Guess what Rizzo did all the time? He just bunted to that other side and got on base.
Exactly. Well, and it took a player like Rizzo and a manager like Madden who said, look, we're playing baseball. It's not about your stats. Hit it to the other side.
Correct. And if you can't, bunt it.
Do something.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
Just bunt the ball.
Hit it on base.
Or hit it over their head. But you don't need to change the rules for that. Like, honestly, if you're that predictable that they can just stack the other side, that's on you, not on anybody else. And changing that to benefit a player that can only hit to one side, get out of here.
You're being paid millions of dollars.
Get out of here. Well, we don't like that our top players that can only hit to one side are getting out all the time. Then they shouldn't be your top players.
Correct. You're making it so, okay, you get your big lefty up who can only hit to the right side. He's now going to get on base. He's now going to get the base hit.
I hate it.
And it's like a participation trophy. Whoa, we're sorry you can't hit to that side, so we're going to make it real easy, as you said.
Well, and it's thinking that that's what people want to see more hits in baseball. They don't. They want to see a better product on the field. It has nothing to do with hits. It has nothing to do with runs. It has to do with a better product on the field. You notice people watch NFL games that are nothing into the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
All the time. And they still find it exciting because it's a good product on the field. People worldwide watch soccer, which has no points ever scored. They watch it all the time. It has nothing to do with getting more hits and more home runs. You understand that that's what people in baseball want to see, which means you shouldn't be in charge because you don't understand the point of the sport. You just don't. Change how many times pitchers get changed in and out. Change how many times, how long you can stay in the batter's box. Make sure they stay in the batter's box. Change things like that to keep the game moving along in order to make baseball players play baseball and put a better product on the field, and people will watch the game. Which brings me to the next rule change that bothers me to the core, that shows me that people in charge of baseball don't understand baseball.
Must be talking about the balk rule.
Number one is balk. You don't pronounce the L. It's not milk.
Actually, it is.
It is milk. That was a
It
bad
is milk.
example. Shush. But it's balk. You don't pronounce the L. The L is
always
silent.
said balk. Balk. Yeah, it is balk. Okay.
Balk
whatever.
is
What?
B-U-L-K. Balk is B-A-L-K.
Go
Now that
on
we
with
have
your
that
point.
figured out, it's the stupidest rule known to man. Clearly, you want more stolen bases, but here's the thing. Ricky Henderson broke the record for stolen bases in the 80s when the rule was in place. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, baseball is instituting a rule where you can check off, basically throw to first base twice.
And what happens on the third time?
You either get them out or they give them a free base. This is the stupidest rule since they instituted a runner at second.
Oh, I think it's worse than that.
I mean, you're giving the complete advantage to the hitting team. Again, more runs. We want to shorten the games. Okay, so we're going to have people steal more bases and score more runs. Again, it's not about the hits and the runs. It's about the product on the field. And I'm sorry, but giving somebody that much of an advantage completely taints the idea of having a runner at first.
I watched the two greatest base stealers of all time, Lou Brock and then Ricky Henderson.
Yeah.
People threw over there 4 and 5 times to try to keep him on the base. And you know how much time it added? They were still finishing games in 2.5 hours.
Correct. It's a chess game. Is it annoying when a pitcher keeps checking back? It is. But you know what's really exciting, though? When your team has the runner at first and you see that pitcher rattled.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, your guy steals the base anyways.
This is pathetic. This is stupid. This is not well thought out.
No, not at all. Because this is the craziest part of all crazy parts. You don't have to throw the ball for it to count.
Right.
You just have to step off.
And oh, by the way, if you fake a throw on that third one, that is a balk, and they're going to get the second base.
Thank you for pronouncing it correctly this time. Yes, it is a base. You're giving it to them, which takes all the art away. You're putting tons of pressure on the catcher to make that throw, which I'm sorry, there are two catchers in the game that I can think of right now that can make that throw consistently.
Contreras and Molina.
Correct.
Yeah.
Contreras and Molina are the only two catchers in the game right now that can consistently make that throw to second base, which means you are completely giving the advantage to the hitting team at that point.
You're artificially giving it to them. That's
You
what
are.
bothers me.
It's like saying, well, football, we want to see more touchdowns. And to a point for the fantasy side of things, you do, because I watch my fantasy team. But there's nothing better than a great defensive stand.
Defense wins champion. And in footballs, they have put everything towards the offense. But the defense is still a major part of the game.
Correct, but look when football went too far with the pass interference rules.
Yeah, and they rolled
When
it back.
everything was pass interference. All of a sudden, you don't see that anymore. They're starting to let them play the game because the fans hated it. Because you were giving too much advantage to the offense. It wasn't fun to watch at that point. Baseball is making it not fun to watch. They are creating, at this point, a game that is unwatchable.
Well, let me add one to that. Not only, and I think those two rules are going to be rolled back, but I was watching the Tigers and the formerly known as Indians play.
Correct. The Guardians.
Catcher for the Guardians makes a perfect play.
Yes.
Runner was coming from third. He had a lane to get to the plate.
Right.
Catcher had his leg back as he should, not a Buster Posey, please break my leg play.
Correct.
Blocks him, goes back, makes a tag. He's out. They appealed it because he didn't give him the full plate to slide into. Runner was safe.
It was a bad call.
It's a ridiculous call. It was a perfect play by the catcher.
Well, it's what do you want the catcher to do? I remember when the rule was put into place. I'm not a big fan of the rule. The catcher's there and wearing all the pads for a reason.
Correct.
But listen, catchers at this point have gotten used to it. It's some of these catchers are athletes. They're really good. They've figured it out and they've gotten better at it. It just took a couple of years for the professionals to get used to it. and you don't even notice it anymore.
Well, the problem is, though, at this point, they're saying you have to catch the ball in front of the plate, turn around, and try to catch a guy running at full speed.
Correct.
They're never going to do it.
They were always allowed to put their leg back. So the
Yes.
fact that now you're saying, I just think that was a bad call.
It was an atrocious call, and it was overruled by the headquarters. According to the rule, the way it's written, he was
correct.
Safe.
I hope that one's going to be looked at by Major League Baseball, and they're going to say, listen,
the
it's
catcher
a bad call. But here's the thing, umpires are getting worse and worse because umpires don't know the rules anymore. They're changing these rules at a rapid pace. You're not giving people a chance to catch up with these things, and you're making stupid rules.
Mhm.
Stupid rules. This pickoff thing is a stupid rule. This isn't going to speed up the game. It's going to slow down the game.
This is the most stupid rule since the Greeny rule with the All-Star game.
The All-Star game was a dumb rule. Listen, we've gone through our rules, and I know we're saving it till the end of the season so we can break it all down, and I promised I wouldn't talk about it. But come on. Like, honestly, you just have to... You want to speed up the game? Make it so you can't change a pitcher 3 times in an inning. Change it, and so you can have one pitching change during an inning in a game, barring injury. Meaning you can change the pitchers anytime you want. You can change it every inning if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But none of this, you have to face 3 batter rules. No, you have to stand for the inning. You're getting paid millions of dollars to pitch. So pitch.
Well, I was listening to John Smoltz, and he said it perfectly. He goes, guys on the mound in today's game don't pitch. They throw.
Correct. It's just throwing 100 miles per hour, and then they switch you out.
And it's time that they get back to knowing how to pitch. And part of knowing how to pitch is knowing how to pick people off at first base. And you set that up by throwing over there a couple times.
Look how much it hurt when John Lester couldn't throw a pick off to first base. That hurt the Cubs in playoff games.
Badly.
He had to figure that out because they were stealing on him left and right. It didn't add to the game. It did nothing to add to the game. There was nothing
more exciting than in the 1-game playoff when they picked off Willie Mays Hayes at first base. It was a brilliant play by the Yankees. And they're taking that away from the game.
I'm on a real rant about real baseball, and you bring up a damn movie.
Because it was a great movie, and the guy got picked off at first base.
Listen.
Had to reel you back in a little bit.
I forgot where I was.
I had to reel you back in a little bit. You were going off it.
It just bothers me because, again, what's holding up the game right now? What's making these games so long?
Commercials.
Not commercials. The reason for the commercials. What's holding up this game so long?
Tell me, oh wise one.
It's the pitching changes. Why are there so many commercials? Because they're changing pitchers every 3 batters. That's why there's that's why there's so many commercials.
No, there's so many commercials because baseball doesn't price the product appropriately, so they don't have as many, and they sponsor every single pitching change. This pitching change brought to you by...
Even if you don't sponsor them, even if you keep the game there, the average time it takes to change a pitcher out is 10 minutes.
Correct.
10 minutes to change a pitcher. So if you're changing 8 pitchers in between innings, that's another 80 minutes onto the game. You wonder why these games are taking so long.
And not to be that guy to go, well, when I was a kid, when I was watching it, you know how many pitching changes took place in a game?
2?
Maybe. Oh, if 1 usually, maybe 2 occasionally.
I mean, I remember growing up in the 90s, and you would see the Yankees were obviously huge at that point. The Yankees would go to Mariano Rivera in the 9th after the pitcher went 8 innings.
Exactly.
Your starter went 8. Roger Clemens went 8. And then Mariano Rivera came in and closed out the game.
Let me ask you this. Could you imagine Craig Maddox, John Schmaltz when he was a starting pitcher, Roger Clemens, Nolan Ryan? Could you imagine if they played for Craig Counsell right now? Do you think they would allow him to take him out?
No.
It was a pride thing for these players to stay in the game and pitch a complete game.
Well, we talked about pitching versus throwing.
Correct.
These guys didn't have 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. Not because they weren't capable of throwing a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. You can't tell me Roger Clemens, juice or no juice, wasn't capable of throwing 100 miles per hour if he wanted to.
Yeah.
You can't tell me Nolan Ryan. You can't tell me Warren Spahn. You can't tell me Bob Gibson couldn't throw the ball 100 miles per hour if they wanted
but
to.
they did it.
They could.
They did it when it was appropriate.
They saved their arms. They had a whole game to pitch. They didn't have to. It was more about where you put the ball on the plate. It was more about making sure you had 4 to 5 pitches that you could go to trick the batter.
It was the way you could make your fastball move.
That was art.
Look, I caught guys, and we used to say he throws a heavy fastball, and that meant it was
Correct.
one with a lot of pop, or if it was a light fastball, it was one that just moved a lot.
Look at Kerry Wood.
Yes.
Kerry Wood hit that glove so hard that when you swung at that ball back before all of his injuries, it was a ground out or a pop up because that thing was coming in at 95 miles per hour and it was coming in heavy.
And it was very heavy and moving. It was a hard ball to hit.
Look at Randy Johnson. You're telling me Randy Johnson couldn't have thrown the ball 102 miles per hour? Of course he could have. But again, this guy's going 9 innings. It's more important for him to learn how to throw a changeup and a slider and a curveball and be able to place those exactly where he needed those to be, because that's baseball. That's what pitching duels are all about. Why did people like 1-to-1 games back in the day? Because you got to see pitchers go against each other and you got to see the mastery, the artistry of actually having to pitch. Now, well, your starter's so-and-so, great. I'm going to see him for 2 innings. Who cares?
Well, and think about something. The guys you just mentioned, the Nolan Ryans, the Roger Clemens in his prime, not only did they throw one of the best fastballs in the business, they had the best curveballs.
They did.
So the curveball would set up the fastball oftentimes, or if they reverse that, they'd be sitting looking at a curveball, like one of those huge 12-6 curveballs that just dropped off the table.
Right. I mean, look at Carlos Zambrano back in the day for the Cubbies, or Ben Sheets for the Brewers. Those fastballs move.
Mm-hmm.
They moved. And now everybody gets obsessed with Chapman. Well, he can throw it 106 miles per hour.
Who cares?
Great, but if you get around on it, it's a straight ball. It doesn't move.
What happens when Aaron Judge gets a hole of 102
We've
mile an hour
seen it.
fastball?
It's gone.
Yeah, it's in orbit.
It's gone. You're going to need an in-flight movie on that ball because it's not landing for a while. You used to have long relievers.
Correct.
That used to be a term. If you weren't a starter, but could be a starter, you were a long reliever for that team. I remember Sean Marshall. I always thought he should have been a starter, but instead he was the Cubs' long reliever because if the starting pitcher gets hurt or magically gives up 10 runs in 2 innings, he would come in and he could go 7 innings. That's what he was there for. That was his job. He wasn't the 7th, 8th, and 9th guy. He was there to go 3 to 8.
Correct. And relievers used to come in the end of 7, 8, and pitch the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It was more than just the 1 inning reliever. Okay, that's fine. Games changed. Mariano Rivera was the greatest 1 inning pitcher I've ever seen.
Correct.
But
there's Trevor Hoffman too.
Sure.
Mariano Rivera was better than Trevor Hoffman, but I always feel bad for Trevor Hoffman because he always gets forgotten.
He set the record and he's forgotten. But at the same time, baseball's got to get back to having pitchers that take pride in actually pitching a full game.
Correct.
And yes, they get paid millions of dollars, so you want to protect their arm. Okay, teach them to pitch, and they're going to have no problem going 7, 8, or 9 innings.
Well, and here's the thing. This is what drives me nuts, and this is where analytics has ruined the game because statistics show that the third time you face a lineup is when they start to catch on to the pitches. They start to get used to you. And so managers decided, well, I'm just never going to let the third time through see my pitcher. And then it's gotten to, well, they're going to see him once, if they see him at all. And that's a joke because you know what? The third time coming through, that's when baseball got fun.
Yes, because that's when the real chess match took place between the pitcher, the catcher, and the batter.
Correct. Now you've seen my stuff. You know what I have.
I'm still going to strike out.
Did I save something?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you going to take me deep? We're about to see who's better right now. And that's when pitchers reached into the back and found what they had. And that's when baseball was awesome. That's when you see you wonder why the greatest pitching hitter battle duels were later in the inning, because at that point they knew each other, because not only did the batter know the pitcher knew the batter. And now you're seeing who's better. And that's where baseball is great. And I am sick and tired of Rob Manfred, who's a clown, and the rest of these owners in the game right now not understanding what is magical about the game of baseball.
Well,
and they're just ruining it.
You have to throw the agents in there. You have to throw the players in there to a certain extent for not standing up and going. I'll give you a classic example. When Burns was going for that no-hitter, I put the blame on him for not standing up and looking at Craig Counsell and going, no, you're going to have to physically drag me off the mound because I'm walking out there and I'm pitching this ninth inning. This is my no-hitter. It's my chance to get.
I think that's his biggest regret. I think that will end up being the biggest regret of his career.
It will. He's going to be 45, 50 years old, probably never get close to another no-hitter.
Nope.
And he's going to look back and go, I should have just punched him in the mouth. I should have just punched him in the mouth and walked out to the mound.
Craig Counsell, for being a player who was there for Randy Johnson's perfect game,
right?
Who played with Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling and pitchers of that caliber when he was with the Diamondbacks. How dare you?
Exactly. And I don't care if it was early in the season, middle of the season, late in the season. If you got a pitcher who's got a chance at a no-hitter, it is your duty, your responsibility as a manager to let him try to get it.
Right. Well, and you mentioned Major League. I mean, bringing in Rick Vaughn, right?
Yeah.
All statistics at that point showed don't bring him in against this batter. But what did he say? I got a feeling he's due. That used to be baseball. I've seen him. He's in the zone right now. I got this.
He's got the eye of the tiger. Let's give him the ball and let him light it up at 100 miles an hour. But they will never do that today because, let me check my computer.
Right. Because honestly, managers are pawns of general managers now. That's all they are. General managers are running the teams. It used to be general managers give you the players.
And the manager ran
the team. And listen, there can be hey, look at the statistics here, look at this, look at that. But eventually you have to go out and play the game. And the thing is analytics is ruining baseball because it's making it not fun to watch. This isn't a chess game. This is just annoying.
Yes, they've taken analytics to the way far degrees.
Right.
And you always give me a hard time about my love of the 82 Brewers. 82 Brewers do not exist in today's game.
No, they don't. But that's more of a testament to older baseball not loving a team that never won anything.
No, that's not it. It was a team that was completely run by a manager who managed from his gut. If there's one guy that was close to the manager in Major League, it was Harvey Keene.
Sure.
He knew his players. He knew what they could do. And he wasn't going to take one out just because something on a computer or something on a score sheet. And they had analytics. They had kept it manually. But they weren't going to pull out a Gorman Thomas in the ninth inning because he was facing a left-handed or a right-handed pitcher.
And there's something to it to look at your lineup and look at what's there. I mean, that's fine. But this has gotten so convoluted where people want to play this chess game. Listen, there's a reason you don't put chess on ESPN so we can sit there and just watch them play, because nobody would watch it because it's boring.
Correct.
And that's what you see here. This is boring. Go out and play. I don't blame the agents because their job is to go get their players paid. I don't blame the players because their job is to go and get paid. It is the job of the owners and the commissioner, who are in this game for the long haul and supposed to be thinking about the betterment of the game, to ensure that this happens. And they're not.
All they're doing is thinking about, how do I maximize the revenues? And the problem is they've never addressed, and they haven't addressed, the fact that baseball is now this regional little game. And it used to be the national pastime. Now it's the Midwest pastime, or it's the Northwest pastime. Nobody knows any players for Seattle outside of
As
the
a country,
Northwest.
we don't even celebrate the fact that a player is going to be hitting 700 home runs soon. Nobody's watching it. We're all talking football now, which is why we're going to get back into football later in the week. But I thought it was so important to be like, guys, this isn't that difficult. Like, there's bringing the game to modern times, which and And I've said several times on this show, I think baseball needs to be changed. I think there needs to be a modernization to baseball. But at the same point, let's not forget what made the sport beautiful. Let's not forget we can blame the steroid era for ruining baseball all you want. But the fact of the matter is the 90s baseball was some of the greatest baseball ever played because you had pitchers going 9. You had pitcher and batter duels. I don't care if they were juiced or not. You stopped and watched when Roger Clemens was going against Barry Bonds or Mark McGuire or Mike Piazza or Piazza didn't juice, but or Craig Biggio or Todd Helton, right? They were pitchers versus hitters, and it was amazing. And now I don't know what this is. It's unwatchable. I went from watching every single Cubs game in a year to I've maybe watched 3 games this year, and I haven't even watched them all the way through.
Well, we watch them for the show because we needed to be able to talk about the game.
I don't even watch them for the show half the time. I just tune in to make sure I can see what happened. I barely watch the highlights. The highlights are boring at this point. Bring baseball to what it was. Honestly, it's not that difficult. If you want to do all these stupid pitching changes, fine. Minimize them because that's what's taking so long for games. That's why games are going so long. You're changing these pitchers. And I know you want to talk. I see it in your eyes.
No,
and I know I'm going on a tangent, but this really breaks my heart. It's the same thing I feel with comic books, right? Comic books at this point have gotten so adult and so gory and bloody and all this that I can't read a comic book that I enjoy and hand it to my son and say, hey, you read this.
Which is how I got you into comic
Correct.
books.
You'd read one and then you give it to me. The Bane series, you said, here you go. I think you'll like this. And the Bane series is what got me into liking Batman and comic books in general. But now I can't do that anymore. And it's the same thing with baseball. I can't. My son doesn't want to watch baseball. It's boring.
Baseball's losing a generation, and we're going to go on a rant about fixing baseball again because I think it's important that we talk about it again later on in the season because it doesn't have to be boring. We could keep people engaged in the game the way that every football fan is engaged every game throughout the season.
Sure.
Baseball could do the same thing. And yes, it's 162, but you know what? It could be engaging for 162.
It could. Listen, you may not be watching every single game, but you'd be watching right now.
You're going to be checking it out.
You'd be watching right now if we make those changes you and I have talked about, which again, we're going to go back into later on in the season if you haven't seen it before. Trust me, we're going to go back in detail on it because it is a plan that will fix baseball. But the biggest thing is the rule changes, just to circle back, that they just made are dumb. The pitching clock, sure.
No problem with that one. The bases,
bigger bases,
fine.
Sure, that's going to avoid injuries.
The rest
honestly,
of them are
it bothers me that they didn't make that change as soon as they switched it to not having an in the area play. Like you're going to get hurt.
That play is still going to happen. It
probably is.
But I have no problem with the bases being a little bit bigger to prevent the ankle injuries, but the rest of these are clown changes.
Jeez. This is Little League, man.
I was just going to say, this is taking Pee Wee baseball to the major league and going, oh, we have to be careful so everybody can participate.
You're doing the same mistakes football did for a while, which is making it too much about offense and not understanding what product it was. And good for Roger Goodell and the owners to say, listen, this is annoying. I hate it. No more.
What we're missing is a George Steinbrenner or a Jerry Jones in football who is that dominant personality who can stand up and look at Manfred and going, you're a clown. This ends now.
You wonder why I wanted Mark Cuban in baseball.
This wouldn't be happening.
Like, listen, I may not have wanted him as the owner of the Cubs. Although the Ricketts aren't really, I'm not a huge fan right now, but that's a different story. But, at least the guy would have been loud and not just...
He wouldn't sit back mildly and go, okay, Rob, whatever you say.
Right, and you have the Dodgers sitting here buying every player just laughing about this.
And you've got, the problem is, Rob Manfred is nothing more than a lawyer from inside baseball.
He has no idea what's going on.
He has no concept of the game on the field. He's just there to, he's not even like Roger Goodell who's trying to maximize revenues, but he does it by making a watchable product. Manfred is making it an unwatchable product. And these rule changes, letting these go through, be a leader in the commissioner's office and don't let this kind of crap
Doesn't know
happen.
how. He doesn't know how. Listen, as much as I hate Judge Landis as a person, he was a heck of a commissioner of baseball and saved the sport by ushering in the live ball era, understanding what people wanted to see in baseball and making that happen. And now,
And
it makes me so sad. It really does, because this was my favorite sport growing up.
It still is mine. It's the greatest
How
sport.
can it be your favorite sport anymore?
Because it's the greatest sport ever invented. I played it. I loved it. I loved being the catcher.
Right, but they're ruining your game.
I know that. Everybody hated Bud Selig, but you know what I knew with Selig in the commissioner's office? He was going to watch over the game. And he had to do certain things to turn it around financially because it was going in the tank. He did do that. And I think had he not been 85 years old, he would have probably made some of the changes that we've been talking about, because he certainly wouldn't have allowed these two changes to take place.
No. Listen, it is time for a new commissioner in baseball to save the sport. I vote Sports Talk with Dad for commissioner of baseball.
I can do that.
We will save the sport of baseball. I have no doubt, because we care about the sport. I just want somebody that cares about baseball, that understands the history of baseball, understands how to modernize the sport in the best of ways. Fantasy baseball, if that's what you're doing this for, fantasy baseball sucks.
Look, fantasy baseball has sucked since rotisserie baseball. The only people that played rotisserie baseball were the preview to the nerds in their mom's basement. It's a horrible game. I hated it.
It's too long. It's not like fantasy football. Don't even try and compete. Worry about putting a better product on the field. And right now, you've made this product worse. You've made it worse because you clearly don't understand the underlying needs of baseball. You clearly don't understand what makes baseball great. And you clearly don't understand what's taking so long in these games. And it bugs me.
And on top of that, baseball. Let the catchers play the position. The catcher for the Guardians made a perfect play, and you took his out away, and it was bullshit. And I think we're done today.
I know you're riled up when you drop a bullshit.
Yes.
That lets me know I did my job, and I got him riled up, which is great. But hey, I'm still fired up. I'm going to go to the gym because I need to work off some of this energy. Because
you can't have an energy drink anymore.
I can't have an energy drink anymore, which, with how upset I am right now, I don't need one.
You don't have one.
I can't. They're gone. I can't have them anymore. I'm really depressed. The headaches are going to come. I'm not excited, but I think we have had a lot of fun today. But you let us know what you think in the comments below. I know I'm right, but tell me why I'm wrong. I love to hear an argument against what I have to say, and you let us know in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Any last words before we head out?
Thank you very much to our new sponsor, Let's Get Checked. Don't forget, hit the link below. Go to the link, follow the link, and use the code Sports Talk with Dad to get a 25% discount. Thank you.
Got it. Anything? Normally, you take the wind out of my sails with these last comments.
Not gonna do it today.
I count on it. I get too worked up in this show.
I'm not gonna make the Queen died. I'm not gonna bring up 9/11. Thank you to all the heroes.
All right, I lied. I don't want
this. I'm not gonna go there.
I don't want this. I changed my mind.
You open the door.
I changed my mind. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.
Bye, everybody.